Figueiras.
Figueiras.
Figueiras. Ignore the U, just Figueiras.
All right. We are live today with Sonalie Figueiras. Oh, sorry. I totally butchered that right away. Can you help me again, please? Figueiras?
Figueiras.
Figueiras. Okay.
Ignore the U, yeah.
Okay, great. Sonalie is a serial entrepreneur, 2 times TEDx speaker, 2019 Gen T honoree, which is Gen T list recognizes the 400 young leaders who are shaping Asia's future, which is really impressive. Editor-in-chief of Green Queen Media, Asia's largest award-winning sustainability media platform, CEO and founder of Eco Warehouse, a global B2B platform for certified organic products, and probably a lot more. Welcome, Sonalie.
Hi, Adam. It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's great. The pleasure is all mine. So we're going to jump into this really quickly and talk about, you are really an inspiration. You are, as I said, a serial entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur myself, I know what goes into that. And I'm just running one business, and you have a lot of businesses, and being editor-in-chief, I can't even imagine what your days look like. So maybe we can go into that. Like you have all these projects, and I know there's more projects coming. What is your day-to-day? What takes up most of your time? What kind of project?
So that's a great question. My day is incredibly varied, and I'm very strict about scheduling blocks of time to do different things. So obviously I have editorial responsibilities every day. Those usually are in the morning and at night after I've put my son to bed. And then I also read a lot. So that usually happens at night as well. And so that helps me stay on top of all the news and just kind of, I love reading. Actually, I prefer reading to any other format. I'm not actually much of a video person. I love even books. I love them the most. So I do a lot of reading. And then unfortunately, I have more meetings a lot of time than I want, but I'm very strict about what meetings I take now. And early on in my career, I think I wasted a lot more time with meetings that were not valuable. And now I'm very upfront. You know, what's the ask? What do you need me for? Otherwise, I pass it on to someone else, or I try and help within 5 minutes. Otherwise, I move on. Obviously, being in the media means that you're solicited a lot, and so you can easily get bogged down. So I basically try to, I don't always achieve it, but every couple of weeks I have a list of things that I want to achieve. So deliverables, you know, so I'm going to quote my husband here. I try to use kind of a bit of an agile approach of like every 2 weeks, you know, what do I want to get achieved? Like, do I want to do some improvements on the Green Queen website? Like, what do I want to improve on? What do I want to add? Do I want to add a new feature on Eco Warehouse? Do I want to do a sales push with my team? And then of course, there is about a couple of hours of my day is also managing the team, right? So I have teammates, I have to spend time with them, work with them, empower them. You know, and I don't mean this disparagingly, but they're human beings. They're not robots. They need my time sometimes. Most of them work remotely and are extremely independent, and I have no interest in micromanagement. But I also feel it's important, you know, sometimes I'd like to take them to lunch. I'd like to talk about their future or what they're working on, or sometimes they're having a bad day. And I do try to have a managerial function as well as a leader function. Some part of my day is software. So working on my other projects, doing a lot of kind of feature testing, speaking to users, all of that. I do also have a lot of speaking engagements and kind of things like this. I speak at schools, I speak at corporates, and then I also do a lot of panels and events. I'm going to try and do less of that this year because last year it was a little bit overloaded on that end. And then of course there's also my life. You know, I have a young child, and I have a husband and a family, and I want to spend time with them. So I try to keep 6 to 8:30 every evening with my family. And then after my son goes to bed, it's back to work. That's it. And then I try to really take off Saturday and Sunday until about 5. Sunday night, I do have to work because I have to get ready for the content of the week. But Saturday is really completely off. And then most of Sunday is off. And that's really, I think actually having a child has actually really helped with balance, because before that I worked 7 days straight every day, all the time, and that wasn't super healthy. I do try to find time to do a hike every day, which is my version of kind of fitness and movement. I really like to be outside. I'm a huge believer in the power of trees to soothe your soul. So I'm very lucky I live next to a mountain, or on a mountain really. And so I can go into the trees, into the forest every day.
Awesome. Awesome. And for anyone who is listening or watching this that thinks, what's the challenge in taking time for family? I have also a family, but as an entrepreneur, I totally get that, because you're always having ideas, you're always having opportunities, and the business is always also like a baby, right? In some way.
Absolutely. I was wondering what would happen once I had a child, if I would change and be less of a workaholic, but I'm going to tell you that the answer is no. I'm just as much a workaholic. I just arrange my day differently. And anyway, I'm a huge believer in children having multiple caregivers that are different. I'm very lucky. My mother is involved in my child's life. My husband's mother is involved. My husband is very involved. I do not feel like I should shoulder all the responsibility, but I am the mummy. And when children are small, they do yearn for the mummy, you know, and especially in the beginning, I was breastfeeding. So I did a lot of balancing and juggling there, but it's possible. Look, I think everyone has their own rhythm and structure, and some people probably would think I work too much. Some people probably would think I don't work enough. I think it just depends on what works for you. I think when you are in a job where you're trying to really make an impact on the future of the planet and humanity, you have a different calling than just, you know, raising profits or offering shareholder growth. So it's a motivation that is kind of much more of a fire inside of you.
Let's go into that. I could stay on the topic of time management and stuff like that all day long. But tell me about your why. You are clearly, to me, or a purpose-driven entrepreneur, or you have a lot of purpose in what you do. Can you tell me about your why?
I think that the new way I'm going to describe myself, I've really thought about it a lot in 2021, is I'm an accidental entrepreneur, but I'm actually an activist at heart.
Oh,
so I have all the tools. Yeah, I have all the tools to be an entrepreneur. I come from an entrepreneurial family. I've always started initiatives and businesses, but I'm less driven by the profit and more driven by the impact. I'm also a natural sharer. And so when I find information that has had a life-changing effect on me, I want to share it. And that's truly the origin of Green Queen. So very, very quickly, I was very sick from when I was 14 until, to be honest, my whole life. I have chronic health issues that make it difficult for me to get help, because they are conditions that are non-curable, and they are not of interest to the pharmaceutical industry as a result. They cannot be just given, you can't just have medication for my issues, and they affect women more than men, so they're less studied and less funded in terms of research and resources in the medical field. So I was you know, ferried to doctors all over the world, because I was in university in the US and my parents lived in London at one point, and I grew up in Hong Kong. So I've been to all the doctors, and I've always actually found doctors to be a very difficult group for me, because they could never help me. I was misdiagnosed. So that led me to do my own research, and of course come to the answer that food and what you eat has a huge impact on your health and can completely transform your health. And so that's how I started changing what I eat. And the more I looked into food, the more I realized that the way food is produced is problematic and causes pollution. And that's how I got into environmentalism. To be honest, when I was a young child, I probably wanted to be a social worker. So I was much more concerned with social issues and ethics, and you know, things like discrimination and harassment, and especially like things like human trafficking. I live in Hong Kong. We have a lot of trafficking issues here, and a lot of kind of fun, strange situations that don't always make sense, like domestic helpers. So that was what really, I was more of a human rights kind of person, but then that changed to being much more of an environmental calling. And when I understood that our food system was going to undergo a revolution because the situation was untenable, and that was going to end up causing waves throughout our entire economic system on a global scale. So I had that realization in 2007, and that made me completely change my life. And then when I changed my life, I realized that there might be other people out there that want to change their life too, and they might need some of the resources I found. So I started Green Queen as a blog to share, and to provide a space for people who might need it. But there was no plan to start a media company, and I didn't come from a media background. And then a couple of years later, I made it into a fully fledged media, not a blog. I really don't like it when people call it a blog. Sorry, but I have to say that.
I get that.
Yeah, it's not a blog anymore. It was a blog many, many, many years ago. And so we started doing a weekly newsletter and having, consistent content. But it was really me alone for so long, while I was also building Eco Warehouse. And then a few years ago, I realized that I was onto something pretty big. We've, pretty much from when I transformed it to a media company, we've had partners and advertisers. I started getting asked to speak all the time. People wanted us to sponsor their event. People wanted to be highlighted with us. And now we're just a fully fledged media. And I think, really one of the leading sustainability media in Asia, and definitely the alt protein news of record. And I think now we have a much more global name, especially in the last year, and our content is read all over the world. And considering that we're a team of 4 full time, I think we've managed to go far.
Yeah, I've actually been in journalism myself, and in posting web news stories, and I know the amount of work that goes into producing that content. So, and I see how much you're producing on a daily basis. So, I get that you don't want to be called a blog anymore. It's really immense.
It's also a gender issue, right? The word blog is often applied to females, and it's just it's diminutive, and it's not right. We're definitely a news reporting source, and we completely altered our style about 3-4 years ago, and went into news rather than just consumer lifestyle writing, which we still do. But the idea is, I coined this term impact media, because for me, it was important to put the agenda of the platform out there and not hide behind it, and just say, we're an impact media. We're looking to change your mind. We're looking to change your behavior. So that's the plan. We're hoping that it's a 3-pronged approach. So we inform you, and we give you the news of what's going on, what's the situation, what's the status quo, what's happening. And then we inspire you by sharing innovation and incredible entrepreneurs and their stories of products and people that are really coming up with solutions to deal with the status quo. And then we empower you by also offering guides, resources, and help so that you can make changes in your life. So yeah, we inform, we inspire, and we empower in that order.
That's amazing. So your day to day is a lot about being the editor, choosing the path, what stories, what's interesting, what's emerging, stuff like that.
That's exactly my job. So I don't produce the content. I have an incredible team. Well, for a long time, I had one writer called Sally Ho that most people in the industry know. She's absolutely outstanding. And just 2 months ago, we added Tanuvi Joe to our team, and she is also fantastic. And that's it. So just the two of them and me produce all the content. And then we have an incredible community manager called Anna Perez, who's also our in-house designer. She does all our graphics, and she helps to get the word out on social media. So she's very creative and design-led in a way that I'm not. I'm a word person. And so she helps to put it out. And then we also have Nicola, who it helps with our newsletters and with LinkedIn. Whereas Anna takes care of Facebook and Instagram, which is just too hard for me. But my job is to essentially set the curation bar and the quality bar So make sure that we are reporting the right assortment of stories. And a lot of times our role at Green Queen is to be the first outlet that will cover something, and then the mainstream media will sometimes pick up our stories, a lot of times, in fact. In terms of
you do original content, you produce, you find the stories yourself?
Sometimes we do. So we have our own exclusive content, but what I mean is we might highlight companies that have not been highlighted before, or we might give companies their first coverage. Any, like, for example, sustainable companies or chefs or restaurants or whatever, and then eventually they get covered by the rest of the media. And I know for a fact that a lot of mainstream media reporters do read our newsletter and are subscribed and check Green Queen. So that's kind of the role that we play in the ecosystem, you know. Of course, some stories we report on are major stories that everybody is reporting on, but we also have stories that are truly more unique to us, and that serve as a way to highlight newer players. And of course, for alt protein, we really play that role for a lot of the Asian startups.
Yeah, I remember as being a journalist on the web, it was a lot of searching on different more niche areas to find interesting news, because you're only in your place and you're kind of general as a journalist, if you are general. So I can totally see that process.
Absolutely.
So amazing. So Green Queen is your main thing, is what I'm getting at, or is what I'm interpreting?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think at this moment, it really is more of a 50-50 split with my other project and then my new project coming up, which is going to be the green packaging sourcing platform.
That's amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So I have a business partner, and we are just absolutely just kind of so horrified by the plastic issue. We're both parents. We both live zero waste lives. We both try to avoid packaging. We both recycle and compost and do everything we can. And essentially what we've realized is that there's all these fantastic packaging solutions out there, but they are not, they're not getting found. And a lot of businesses want to invest and upgrade with better packaging, but they don't know where to find it. So we are going to create the first completely green packaging e-commerce marketplace for B2B. So this is not for consumers. This is really for businesses to source packaging solutions. So everything from compostable, biodegradable, dissolvable, there will be a huge education element to it, because there's a lot of greenwashing in packaging, and just a lot of, sometimes it's not so sinister as greenwashing. Sometimes it's just, people are just not aware of standards and of end of life of materials and how to dispose of them. And so there's just a lot of opacity and a lot of misunderstandings and misinformation. So there's a real education element to it. There's obviously the marketplace element to it, allowing businesses to source instantly online on a cross-border structure, which is very difficult to implement, which is why it took us 10 months to find a software solution that could do what we want. Cross-border e-commerce is complicated, especially at the B2B.
What does that mean, cross-borders?
It means that our buyers would be from everywhere in the world, and our suppliers would be from everywhere in the world. And that's very difficult to do on a B2B level. It's difficult to do even on a B2C level. And it's interesting because actually the B2B e-commerce market is something like 10 times the B2C market, but most of the tools and software that exists are serving the B2C market. So there's definitely a gap here, and it's really taken us a long time. We've tested so many platforms. We've seen so much, but it's all, and in the end, with like an end consumer in mind, not an industry trade buyer. Industry buyers have very specific requirements. They're not just looking to make a quick sale and have like a list of favorite products. They really need solutions like RF, request for quote, so RFQs, invoicing capacity, the ability to have, different pricing for different tiers of customers if you're a vendor. And you want to price in different markets, or or the ability to run different accounts under your account because you might have a distributor in one zone and not in another. So it's pretty complicated.
Yeah.
And so that's what we work on. And we finally found a solution, which has taken so long. And so we're actually raising a pre-seed small angel round for that, just to go live. And then we'll do a bigger seed later.
That's also a complete topic. I could ask a lot of questions about all the funding and the startups and everything like. And maybe, what do you see? Like, you're in this world. You see. You have this why, what you want to change, and what needs to be changed, and companies emerging. What are you seeing for trends right now? What are your take on the market and the change right now? Kind of a broad question, but I mean, what do you see for opportunities? Like we have Beyond Meat and we have Oatly. They went public and stuff like that. How is it changing right now?
At a global level, or just? Yeah. I mean, I think that for people like me who've been in the industry for a long time, this has been a long time coming. But if you're just looking at it today, or newer investors or newer players, I think the impression you probably have is that it's absolutely exploding. I mean, we're talking about an industry where the largest QSR restaurant chain in the world, aka McDonald's, has just signed a 3-year agreement with a plant protein manufacturer, aka Beyond Meat. We're talking about brands like Impossible that are just changing the bar, that are literally serving burgers that people cannot distinguish as non-meat. It's everywhere. The number of brands out there is astounding. It's going so fast. I mean, we did the first report on Asia alt protein industry last January 2020, and there were like there were just a handful of companies in the region, 20 something. Oh. Now there are so many more. I mean, maybe 60, 70. I mean, it's just going really fast. I think that China is going to be a huge part of the show. I mean, right now they have the largest consumption of beef in the world by volume, even though per capita it's actually pretty low compared to the US. Because of their sheer population size, volumes are large. So we need to stop that. We need to give them alternatives. We can't let that get to where it is. We have countries like India that everyone thinks are mostly vegetarian, but that's actually not really true. It's under 30% are vegetarian, and
that's low.
Yeah, and basically, again, the numbers are messy, but the latest information I have is that it's just around 30% of the population is a permanent vegetarian, but that means they're still consuming dairy and eggs. But the consumption per capita of meat in India is very, very low, but it is on the rise. So those are especially a meat like chicken. And obviously everyone knows that industrial chicken is just so horrific in industrial chicken production, I mean. So there's a lot to do, but there's never been a better time to do it. There is just such a much more positive acceptance of the fact that plant-based meat is here to stay. I have huge hopes for cellular agriculture, for seafood, for dairy, for meat. I'm a huge fan of fermented foods. Fermentation-based technology, so recombinant precision fermentation. I think there's not enough companies in that space. Given that there's less of a regulatory issue, I think we need more of those companies. Obviously, on the cell-based side, we had Just that got approval from the Singapore government. For those of us in Asia, it wasn't a huge shock that Singapore was the first to give regulatory approval, because Singapore is the food tech capital of Asia, and that happened really fast. I was at an event on a panel just 2 weeks ago where someone from Singapore was saying that just 5 years ago there was no food tech scene, and now they're the leading market in Asia. So that shows you how fast it can go. Yeah. I think my concerns are about supply chain for the industry, especially on the plant-based side. So
is it moving that fast that it can't keep up? No.
Right, but we don't have enough production facilities. And based on all my discussions with experts and people who, people like we had a fantastic clubhouse the other day in my weekly show that I run with Armand from Food Hack. We interviewed Dominique Kuhl from who's the head of technology of Bueller in Singapore. And so they are a machinery company. Their machines touch the lives of 2 billion people a day. So they're a massive company, very, very good company, family run everything. And they're about to open a massive plant-based innovation center in Singapore. And he agreed. He absolutely underlined the fact that there's not enough production capacity because we need scale. We need scale. And it's funny because we're doing an interview with a really, really phenomenal VC lady. It will come out tomorrow, but in the interview, she says, I'm not looking to invest in someone who's basically making a good, delicious product for their community. I am looking to invest in $1 trillion company because that's the impact we need to have.
Who's going to take that role? Is it Beyond Meat, Impossible Foods, and Oatly? Those are the 3 biggest players in the plant-based sector?
I mean, for sure, they're going to do that, but it's just not where they're not. That's not enough. They're definitely going to be part of it. They're hugely part of it. They're the leaders, but we need more. And what we need is a lot more investment into manufacturing and co-manufacturing facilities, co-packers, plants. We need to convert meat factories to plant-based factories. That's what we really need to work on. And we need more policy from governments that supports those transitions and that incentivizes people to convert.
So where are we in the big picture of this change, this shift? Because as you said, 2007, you saw this changing, and I guess
that was me. I don't know that everyone agrees with that.
But I guess like if more and more studies say that becoming plant-based as a society, as human beings, is necessary to avoid the climate catastrophe. I mean, at least that's something that's needed in some shape or form, and more things to come. Yeah.
I think that it depends. Like, look, everybody makes predictions. I mean, some people are saying that cellular meat will be commercialized within 5 years. Some people are saying 10 years. I would say probably 10 years at a mass scale with affordability for me. For plant-based, I would hope that we could get to the point where by 2030, it's maybe 50% of people's diets. I don't think we'll get to 100%. I think the ideal would be to get to at least 50% of plant-based and then the rest fermented and cell-based to really get animals out of the economy. And it's not just food that needs to change. We need to change materials. We have to stop using leather. We have to stop using silk. We have to stop using wool. There's so much more to do. And then there's also plastic. It's funny because people see plastic as non-animal related, but plastic waste in the ocean is the biggest killer of sea life. And it's mostly because of fishing nets, right? So it's completely related. So if you're vegan, you should really also be boycotting plastic. I mean, really. And of course, the other thing is we need to stop drilling for oil and making products out of petroleum. I mean, that's just, that's got to go. But there's so many things that need to happen, Adam. And honestly, if I'm truly honest, I don't believe that it will just be from consumer behavior change. I think consumers have shown that they have tremendous power. I mean, the companies that have made it, Impossible, Beyond, and Oatly, have made it because they've been able to galvanize consumer purchasing power.
Yes.
But we want this to be a global disruption on a level that will really move the dial on emissions. We need policy changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Like, we have seen the consumers change their attitudes to some degree. I mean, as you said, Beyond wouldn't be this big without it. If people weren't interested in consuming more plant-based or moving away from animal, whatever it motivates them, we wouldn't see this big shift. But then after that,
yes, but I think the big shift happened because there was an added factor. There are two added factors that changed people's mind. One is the health factor. So there's more and more research showing that excessive consumption of meat is linked to a whole range of disease and health conditions. And then two, the obviously breaking kind of connection between animal agriculture and emissions. And I think that the worry and the fear and the anxiety around climate change is a lot stronger today than it was 10 years ago. So actually the first report that made that connection was the UN's report back in 2006. But it's taken until a couple, 4 years ago, and really just the last 2 years to accelerate people's mind and have all these companies whose mission it is to provide products that are low emission, right? And then if you add into that a global pandemic that has brought the world to a halt, that is the result of our messed up animal agriculture, wow, then you have the accelerant. But is the accelerant enough for governments to act? I think it's proven that it's enough for consumers to act and for businesses to act. Yeah,
and so we have all these things, and for me, I mean, we can all make predictions, but for me, it's clear that we're gonna head towards a future where we make this shift for sustainability and all these reasons and pandemics and everything. And if it's 100% or not, I don't know, but so we're on this path, and consumers have started to gain more interest. Businesses and more products are coming out. So where are we now? Is it like just beginning with businesses starting to meet that demand, or where do you see we are at in that phase? Because then politicians will adapt when more people change their behaviors and their attitudes, right?
No, that's actually what I think. I think it's not just enough for just behavior change. I think we need policy to change now. So I think one of the biggest things you can do is to vote for people that are willing to enact those changes. You cannot just rely on businesses to do all the work because of your purchasing power. Of course, it is very strong what's happening, but to be honest, we need more policy changes. That's it. We need meat taxes. We need money to help convert livestock farmers and meat plants to plant-based or other alternative protein technology. We need incentivizing of retailers and businesses who are committing to alternative protein. We need more research done into the health aspects and nutrition aspects of alternative protein so people understand that it's safe and that it's a positive life choice. We need all of that.
Are you optimistic about the future?
I'm actually not an optimist by nature, but I have this discussion with a lot of people. I'm not the kind of person that's going to tell you that everything's rosy and that everything's great. And that's just not me. I don't have that Silicon Valley fairy dust that a lot of people in the space seem to have. I think there are serious challenges ahead and major systemic issues, and we're not moving fast enough or acting fast enough or caring enough. But at the same point in time, I fight my deep depression of the world by doing what I do. I wake up every day and I do everything I can to move the needle. And I think there are millions of people like me, and that's what will move the needle. Not just being positive with no plan.
I think that's a great way to end this, because I also found that when I made the realization of where we're at, not maybe as informed as you are, but realizing that something needs to be done and I need to do something for the world and also for myself, because I can't bear just knowing all the problems and not doing anything about it. So thank you so much, Sonalie, for sharing your story and what you do, and you are truly an inspiration. And thanks for being on the show.
It's really been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and keep up the great work. I can't wait to see more.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Okay, great. Thank you.
Bye, Adam.
Bye.